Hello everyone, just a quick call of action today before the guest video. If you could please like, subscribe and share, that would be much appreciated. Most people who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you could really do that and like the video if you enjoy this guest video, so I can get more guests on the show and get the RBL Talk podcast going worldwide. Hope you enjoyed today's video. It's that time of the show where I introduce the special guests in the RBL Talk segment. Today we have two special guests in the one camera feed, which is actually a show first. Most people have their own camera feeds and that's okay. It actually makes things actually easier on the viewers on the platforms because the camera gets to be a lot bigger. Welcome guests, how are we?
We're all good, thank you. Yeah, I'm Dan and Archie.
Can you please introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, and if you have any podcasts or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I'm Dan and this is my son Archie. We are SK Sturm Graz fans. Sturm are the second biggest team in Austria, I guess, behind your younger brother, I guess, in Salzburg. We don't have a podcast as such, but we do have social medias in the form of X and Instagram, and that is at Sturm in UK, if you want to follow us.
Yeah, I did see that when I was looking for some English supporting fans of, I'm probably going to butcher this throughout the episode, so I do apologize. If you want to pick up on my pronunciations, by all means, go for it. Sturm Graz, is that close enough?
It's good. It's good enough. It's taken us a couple of years to sort of master the Syrian dialects and accents. So yeah, you're absolutely fine. As long as it's Sturm and Graz, you can't go too far wrong.
Yeah, you guys were the only people around that I could find that were really English supporting fans that would be able to get onto the show. So how did you come about supporting Sturm Graz?
Well, I think we've always been into like ground hopping. Archie and I have been over to Germany, to Leverkusen. We've been to Poland, to Poznan. And we're both mad keen on MotoGP, so motorbike racing. And a couple of years ago, we went over to Austria, to Spielberg. And I'll let Archie pick up the story from there, because it's his story, I guess.
Yeah, so I said to my dad, should we have a look if there's any teams that play in Graz? Because I mean, I saw that it was the second largest city in Austria, so of course they must have at least one football team. And it just so happened that Sturm Graz were playing at home that weekend. But funnily enough, the Sturm rivals, GAK, they play at the same stadium, so funnily enough, we could have ended up supporting them. It's just the way of the fixtures.
So in the week before we were going over to Austria to Spielberg for the MotoGP, I looked online and just done a bit of research about Sturm Graz and their ultra fan base. They're in their North Curve, and I wasn't too sure whether or not it would be safe. We've been to some as I say, we've been to Poland. We've been to some hardcore fan bases, and you're always a bit cautious, especially taking Archie at the time was 14, taking him into like the ultra part. So I've done a bit of research online, looked at YouTube, and we decided to book tickets which were right next to the curve. So on the day itself, we got to the stadium nice and early. I bought Archie a shirt, Sturm Graz shirt, and the beer over there is just fantastic. So I'd had a couple of them. We went inside the stadium, and there's like a concourse out the back of the curve, and I was just chatting to a guy. I don't speak any German. I didn't at the time speak any German. I do speak a little bit now, but at the time, I engaged in conversation with this chap and said, it's our first game. Is it safe to bring is it okay to bring Archie in? And he's like, yeah, come in. Of course it's safe. Where are you from? Have some T-shirts, have some stickers. Come in. You're welcome anytime. And that really started our story. And it was we went inside the curve. We stood with a fan group. There's three main fan groups inside the North Curve. We stood with one of the oldest ones, which is the Sturm Jules. And the game itself, it was against Lask, which are from Linz, they qualify. I think they were qualified for Europe a couple of years ago. They've had a bit of a downturn in form and fortune recently, but we were playing Lask. It was a top of the table clash, really. I think we were second, they were third. And the atmosphere inside that stadium just blew us away. From the first whistle, there was a choreography before the game. During the game, the first 10 minutes of the game, you couldn't see anything because it was, black and smoke and pyros. And the singing is just, the atmosphere and the singing is just unbelievable inside that curve. I'd had too many beers, so I went out the back to go to the toilet. I came back in. I didn't even realise that Lask had scored because the support just does not stop. And for those 90 minutes, that was that was it for us. I mean, I think it just gave me such a buzz, and we wanted more. I wanted more and more and more. So obviously that's where the story started, I guess. We got chatting to a couple of people inside the curve, exchanged numbers, kept in touch, arranged, and came over to see them again. And yeah, that's where it all started really for us. The story's long. I mean, I could elaborate even more, but I don't want to bore your listeners. It's father and son that go to Austria to watch motorbikes with a love of football, end up in Graz, end up inside the Merkur Arena and watching Sturm Graz, it's just fate. There were so many things which I guess fell into place that day, that trip really. So yeah, here we are.
You certainly won't bore the listeners, that's for sure. I don't believe you said the year of when this was. Did you say that, or my apologies?
No, I think it's
2022.
2022. Well, so it's three years ago now. 3 years ago now. But since that time, we go back. Well, I think last year we've done about 10 or 11 trips over to Austria for games.
And whereabouts from? So you're from the UK. So what's the travelling distance like for that?
So yeah, it's pretty hardcore, I guess. So we live in Colchester, which is they're our first team. That's our hometown team, Colchester. So Colchester United play in League Two. That's where we live effectively. So our nearest airport is Stansted, which is a 45-minute drive. We've got a 2-hour flight into Vienna, and then it's a 2-hour drive from Vienna down to Graz, and then obviously the return of that on the back. So with all the airport regulations and stuff, being that you fly 3 hours before, it's often a long day. I love the early starts.
Yeah, very much. Getting a little bit sick of the 4 o'clock early starts.
But they're worth it. Of course they're worth
Yeah.
it. We get to spend time with our friends over in Austria, so yeah, it's all good.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like the atmosphere is very welcoming. It's very like a family atmosphere as well. You could almost say that. I'm not too sure what it's like at your hometown team. However, it sounds like the atmospheres would be very similar, very welcoming, very very family orientated, and it's just basically the same atmosphere or similar atmosphere, just in a different country. So,
well, I guess for me, I guess it brings back the romance and the nostalgia of when I was Archie's age, watching Colchester when they were in the non-league. Effectively, they were a non-league side. We had an old stadium. It was all standing. You'd get 5,000-6,000 people in there a week, but the atmosphere was incredible. And I think with the way that English football has moved on, all the stadiums are seated. There's no pyros. A lot of clubs don't encourage singing. So for me, I think going over to Austria reignited that memory, I guess, and being able to experience that with Archie is just incredible. I mean, for example, do you want to talk about Colchester's atmospheres now?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing that got us to keep coming back. It was the alien feeling of the Sturm fans, because to me, supporting a fourth division English side, it's an all right atmosphere at the home ground, but come 10 minutes, there's no noise, there's no atmosphere, no one's speaking, you can just hear the players. And yeah, hearing the Sturm fans singing for 90 minutes and not even stopping when the other team is scoring a goal, that's just what kept making us wanting to go back. Because I don't think we actually saw a win till our 5th time watching Sturm. So yeah, but yeah.
That sums it up. Sums it up perfectly. I think as I alluded to earlier, I think English football, certainly from my experience, the atmosphere is gone. The regulations that are now in place, you can't drink alcohol, for example, inside of the pitch and for the top 5 or 6 tier games. There's obviously no pyros. There's no major organised fan groups like there are in other countries. So it's all become a little bit disjointed for me personally in England. I think I love my club. I love Colchester. Archie loves his club, as I say. It's my hometown. It was my dad's hometown. It was his dad's hometown, and it will always be our team. But from a football and atmosphere point of view, it's Austrian football is so much better.
that's one thing I can say about the Premier League. Just watching it, and I've never been to any Premier League game or anything like that. but you can sort of see, since all the money came involved and everything like that, that some of the stadiums as well, they've become almost soulless. They've lost their iconic touch. The only one left that I could think of currently in the Premier League would be like, this is probably going to annoy some Liverpool people that probably listen to the show, is Everton, down at Goodison Park, as it's very boxed in, cagey, but it's very loud. The whole place could even be shaking at one point, from what I've been told from some Australian English Everton fans. So what's it like in the stadium over there? Like you said about the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what's it like for if I was going there, or a listener going there for the first time? So all the fans over in Germany who listen to this podcast going over there, and if this is their first time, what can they expect?
This is where there's a slight issue, I guess, with the game on Wednesday, is that unfortunately, because of the regulations that the UCL, the Champions League, has, Sturm Graz actually don't play their games inside our stadium. They don't play at the Merkur Arena. What we do, unfortunately, is we play an hour and a half away in Klagenfurt, which is a bigger stadium. It's not our stadium. It's Klagenfurt Stadium, obviously. So the atmosphere, I think the atmosphere is lost a little bit. There is still an incredible support. The fan buses go, there'll probably be about 100 fan buses, I guess. There'll be a lot of fan buses going from Graz down to Klagenfurt. So there will be an atmosphere, but it won't be the same as if it were a league game, for example. So I think you'll be in for a hostile time still. It will be 90 minutes of singing. There'll be banners. There'll be protest banners, basically, against the city of Graz, asking for a stadium, which I'll come on to later, I guess. But yeah, the atmosphere is intense. It's incredible. We love it.
Now, is the only reason why that they're not playing in their own stadium, is that due to like capacity or something like that of the stadium? Is that the UEFA rule of that, or?
Yeah, so it's capacity, and it's I think it's to do with like TV cameras and TV gantries and VIP boxes even.
Okay.
The Sturm Stadium, the Merkur Arena, as Archie said, we share it with GAK, which are the other Graz team. We've been the club have been lobbying, I guess, the town council, the city council, for many years now to get a new stadium. Like, I guess, Salzburg have, like Linz, Linz have in Austria. But for whatever reason, the Graz City Council, they won't budge on it. They won't invest in a new stadium.
Well, me personally, I mean, this is the first time I've ever spoken with any Sturm Graz fans, and I'm not the type of person to suck up or anything like that. But I do think that is a little bit poor from the Austrian council side of things, because they have every right to be able to play in their own stadium, in their own ground, and if they're not going to be able to do anything and foot the bill, maybe. I don't know how UEFA can do things or something, but why can't they possibly help? Be considering that the team has earned the right to play in that league. If their stadium isn't able to get in that league, why can't they give them money to be able to invest in either getting their stadium up to code or helping in some way getting a stadium? Because to me, it's fair is fair.
I agree completely, and so I think it's quite short-sighted for the city council in that the tourism generation that. The tourism and revenue that playing in the Champions League generates for the city is going to be worth, I guess, millions, hundreds of thousands of euros, millions of euros. People coming into Graz, people staying in Graz, having a stadium purpose-built for Sturm Graz, or even being able to have the Merkur Arena now, having it as our own stadium and being able to develop that stadium. But at the moment, for whatever reason, they're not interested. I know that the Sturm Graz president, Christian Jauch, has been lobbying the city council, various other officials from the club. A lot of the fan groups do regularly, but at the moment, they won't budge. So we've got what we've got, and from a league point of view, it is. I love the stadium. It's fantastic. As I say, the curve and the atmosphere in there, it's second to none. However, moving forward in 10 years' time to future-proof the club, I guess they've got to invest and they've got to look to move.
Now, I've actually got a listener question for you guys, and this one's from Ballum. So just give me a moment here while I pull it up. He actually gave me a question to answer, and this wasn't a question that I could specifically answer. So I wanted to get your thoughts on it, being the Sturm Graz experts here. And he asks about the team from this season, how well they're doing. And it states here just at the bottom part of this, as we have a RBL Talk segment with the listener questions later on after our interview. He just says here, lastly, certainly not least, Sturm Graz are top Austria Bundesliga. Can you tell listeners much about them? Which this is what I brought you onto the show for as well. But are they expected to win their league again this season?
The difficult question to answer. In short, yes, I think we will win the league. However, there's a caveat on that. So just to give your listeners a bit of background, I guess, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had Christian Ilzer as our manager. He's now he was poached by Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga. Bundesliga. So he's gone. He's taken he's taken several of his backroom staff with him, which is obviously there's a period of transition now at Sturm Graz. So we've now got Jürgen Seumel as our manager, who came through from our B-side effectively, I guess. The core of players is still there. We've lost Mika Bierif, who is a striker we picked up from Arsenal in the summer. He's gone off to Monaco. We've lost Yusuf Gazibegovic, who's now gone to FC Cologne. So we've lost a few very, very key players. However, we are recruiting, and Sturm Graz's philosophy, I guess, is all about developing younger players, bringing younger players through. So, for example, Gazibegovic came when he was young, 22. He came from effectively Red Bull Salzburg's B-side. To replace him, though, we've got Max Johnson, who's a Scottish guy. So I'm looking for him to step up. Today, we've just signed a striker to replace Mika Bierif, who's young, 22 years old, scored goals in the Bundesliga previously. So we'll see. I think the foundations are there. I think we will win the league again. We're League and Cup double holders at the moment. So we've taken that crown from Salzburg, who have dominated the league for the last 10 or so years with their endless pots of money. So that's now changing, and I'm confident Sturm Graz will win the league and we'll win the cup. We're still in the cup as well.
So you touched on some players there and a little bit on your manager, which I will get into there. But I wanted to talk about the player that I was going to put on for Player Watch when I was looking up at the team here. And that was the player that you just touched on. I do apologize, I've forgotten his name. He went to Monaco. And for me, yes, so he was the top goal scorer and also the top assist player in your team prior to the transfer. How much of a big loss is it from your guys' perspective, and does anything change coming up in this fixture against RB Leipzig, considering he's not your star man anymore?
Yeah, he's a big loss. I mean, he done so much. He would run and create so much off the ball for other players, and I think that attacking threat, would you agree? I think has gone a bit now.
Yeah, on Wednesday, I think we'll definitely be struggling in the attacking front to be scoring goals. I mean, we've got a young 21 Danish William Boving, and then we've got who's the other striker?
Sidi Jatta.
Yeah, we've got Sidi Jatta, who's a bit intermittent with scoring goals. So it's nothing compared to Mika Bierif, but I mean, it's looking on paper. I mean, it just feels as though we're just going to be playing for a 0-0 draw with no attacking threat.
It's certainly going to be difficult. I think that Mika offered so much of a threat, and he and Sidi Jatta up front, I thought, and William Boving as well. They worked so well together. They had this great understanding. There'd be runs. They'd make runs and feed each other balls. So I think, I think the threat. You're certainly playing Sturm Graz at the right time.
Well, that's not really something that I would be taking very lightly, considering that we haven't been very well in the UEFA Champions League as well. Granted, we've played some really, really top teams, but look, we have bottled our fair share of games in the league and also in the Champions League, as all listeners of the show, and even people that we're playing up against as well would have clearly seen. So when I do Player Watch, I always single out a player that is not always the best player, but can be sometimes the most intriguing player or something like that. So for me, I picked a different player considering he was taken to Monaco. And I'm going to probably butcher this as well, so I do apologize in advance. It's Otar Kitishvili. That's how I've decided to try to pronounce it. How badly have I incorrectly said that one?
Yep, that's fine. No, perfect. Otter Kitashvili, yeah.
So how much
He's
is
a brilliant player. Yeah.
how important is he to you? And I said that he was the glue, the engine in the midfield area to link from the defense to attack. What's he like from a Sturm Graz supporter's perspective?
You've nailed it. He's the engine room. He keeps everything moving. He is the playmaker. He can finish goals. He's a leader on the pitch. Yeah, he's brilliant. And also, he's just signed a contract extension as well, because there was a bit of speculation that he might also be going, but he's just signed a contract extension. So, Sturm Graz fans, we're very, very pleased with that. He will be a threat to you guys.
He's already scored in the UEFA Champions League as well, for the listeners that don't know that as well. So he's definitely going to be a player that needs to be marked very tightly. Otherwise, if he doesn't score, he'll definitely be creating for a Sturm Graz perspective. While we're still talking about players, I would like to know who are your club's star players besides the ones already mentioned, and who are your personal favourites for the both of you as well?
I'd say our star player this season that we've currently got is probably Yao Toure, the young 19-year-old midfielder slash right midfielder, loan from Brighton. We've got him on loan for the season, but I don't think we're going to be able to keep him because, when we first got him, I think his estimated market value must have been about 5 million, but now it's gone up to 15 million. So I don't think Sturm could be willing to pay that much to buy him, although it would be a good investment for the club. I just don't think it'd be worth it to invest purely in one player. But yeah, he's been a great player this season. Sturm Graz is definitely a good club for him at the point he is in his playing career at the moment.
Yeah, just following on from that, I think he's to look at him build wise, he's very slight build. He's so pacey, he's so tricky. He's just an excellent player. So, favourite player wise for me, it's Dimitri Lavalley. He is left back defender, I guess. Very, very strong. He's 27 years old, so he's quite experienced. Doesn't suffer any falls. He'll go hard. He'll tackle hard. He can ping a ball. So for me, he's my favourite player, Dimi Lavalley.
I'd say my favourite is probably Max Johnson, as his Scottish young fullback. And he actually used to play for Queen of the South, which is where our family's from. So we've got that other connection. So yeah, that's my favourite player.
I wanted to speak to you about your manager. We touched on that a little bit earlier. What is his style of play?
Okay, so we've got Jurgen Soimel, who's been in post since December. He's effectively been promoted from our second side. He has the same mentality as our former coach, Chris Ilsner. It's very attack-minded. So regardless of whether we're 2-0 down or 2-0 up, it's attack. And that's a very attractive sort of style of play. And I think that's no more obvious than one of our last trips to Graz when Sturm set the club record for a 7-0 win against Klagenfurt.
7-0. Wow. I don't even think RBL has done something that big that I even can think of anyway. So what you're saying is that come Wednesday night, it's going to be attacking football as per usual?
Famous last word. Well, I hope so. That's the way Sturm play. It's the last Champions League game. Sturm have got nothing to lose. We can't qualify. I guess from a pride point of view, we want to finish above Salzburg. Salzburg have got a very tough game, and I'm not saying that Leipzig aren't a tough game, but I think Salzburg have got a very tough game. I've deflected the question there completely. However, you will see attacking football from Sturm Graz.
As long as it's an entertaining game, that'd be fantastic, because I don't want us to, not go all out and, we only play for like a 1-0 game or something like that. And that's no discredit to you guys. I think if we don't bring our A game, we can quite certainly lose this game. There's no question about that. And I even said in the preview before bringing you on the show that we're going to need to bring everything, considering that, yes, both teams have nothing to lose. It's a dead rubber from what us Australians say, that, as you would know of the terminology, it doesn't matter of the result, but, you guys are going to want to, one, beat us because you don't like us, and we'll get into that very quickly. And also you're going to want to get the win so that way you are in front of other Red Bull team, sister club RB Salzburg. So the next question, as I always love asking, especially with guests that aren't RB Leipzig supporters, is how do you feel about us, the club? Be honest. And by all means, if you need to swear or go off the tree, especially considering we've had some technical difficulties, which most people won't realise by the end of this, please let it all out. This is fine.
I think, for me, the brand have done so much for sport globally. They, the F1 side of things, the skiing side of things, they've really pushed boundaries, certainly with extreme sports as well. But personally, I am against. I don't agree with these these big investment brands that come in and completely change the brand and names of clubs. That's not for me. I think they ruin the identity of what that club is and what that club was. But I also see the positives for it. I mean, that and it is an endless pot of money, isn't it? You've got pretty much an infinite amount of money to go and spend on players. So I see both sides, but for me personally, I think I don't like Red Bull clubs. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I do have a little counter action for that, but first I do want to hear what Archie says. What do you think? How do you feel about us, the club? And be honest.
I don't really have an opinion on the club, to be honest. I mean, I've been Red Bull Leipzig the whole of my life, the whole time I've been on this earth, and I mean, I know no different. But I mean, to look inside, I mean, going against the 50+1 rule that I think they have in Germany, I'm surprised that the German FA haven't taken any action out on that. And I don't really have a huge opinion on it.
I'm not me.
No, that's fine. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I've been quite vocal on this myself personally. So, and this is coming from someone who's an actual RB Leipzig, supporter or fan, whatever you want to call us. I'm up early hours of the morning, like I am now. Currently 5:44 a.m. my local time. Straight after work, I do live streams early hours of the morning. But when it comes to how the club is run specifically, I do think that the fans and the paying members, even though technically that doesn't exist, so to speak, they need to have more of a say. So all the local fans in Germany need to be able to have a local, or would be nice to have more of a local say in how the club is run. And a little bit of touch on yourself there when it came to, I do believe Dan is the name. I should have said that earlier. But when you said that the endless pool of amounts of money, you're sort of right on that perspective, but slightly a little bit wrong, because we have the FA. Like the rules that you can't turn around just pump tons of money. Like the Saudi league's a little bit different. Half the league is owned by a few people or something. What I don't like about us as a Red Bull model is that, for instance, we can buy a player from Red Bull Salzburg and then come to RB Leipzig. Now, essentially, and I'm not saying this in any disrespect to the owners or anything like that, that's essentially just changing money from the same hands. So you're in a sense, because it's both owned by Red Bull, or even though the way we're owned is technically like a company that's only got 5 shareholders and they get to have the main rights of the club. But at the end of the day, that parent company of that is still Red Bull. So I do think that it should be maybe, and this is going to harm us in the future, so to speak, I guess you could say, but you shouldn't be able to sell and buy club players from the same club, if that makes sense. So I can't just go from, I like Red Bull Salzburg striker because they're really good and we don't have one. Think Benjamin Sesko or something like that. And then we just port them over. The same money just changes hands from the same company. It's not like I'm purchasing a club that's not owned by Red Bull, for instance, taking a player from Sturm Graz, and then they're coming over to us. That's different, because it's a different entity to another different entity. And that's where I think that multi-club ownership can be okay. But in that sense, that's an unfair advantage, which I don't think should be actually able to happen in world football. And the one thing I will say about Red Bull owning clubs is that I do like that we don't we rely a lot on our youth. We don't just go out and spend like 80 million euro on star players around the world every single year. But I do think it is an unfair advantage that we're taking players from other Red Bull clubs, which I don't really mind if they're going to another club from RB Leipzig, but it really shouldn't. We shouldn't be able to pick from being the so-called premier club of the Red Bull branding. We shouldn't be able to pick who we'd want and choose from any of the other sister or lower clubs of the Red Bull franchise. What do you think on that?
It's interesting in what you're saying. I think I know in England, Leeds have, there's obviously the RB connection there now. I mean, Leeds are a club in the UK that is steeped in history. They've had major success over the 70s and 80s. And I know there's been a bit of resistance already, even about the branding on the shirt sponsorship from an RB point, from a Red Bull point of view. So deflecting a little bit from what you've said, I do completely agree. Well, I don't agree, but I completely understand what you're saying. And I do agree in that, yeah, you're right. I don't think it's fair that clubs that own various different clubs in other countries can pick and choose who they want without, proper transfers and stuff. Which, that's the unfair bit, I guess, of it all. So I agree with what you've said, and I understand what you've said, but I still stand by my argument.
Well, I will say one thing that I'm glad you do agree on that, I guess you could say. But whenever I bring guests on, I'm never trying to convert anyone. I don't do this podcast to try to convert anyone. As some people don't realize, I'm not paid by Red Bull. So if I was, I'd probably have some stipulations and things I can't say, including the thing I just said. But,
there'll be a Red Bull Adelaide soon, don't worry. I'm sure you'll be involved.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, I would, as long as the podcast, I'll put it this way. When someone gives you a lot of money, you turn around and you can't say that it won't change you or something like that, or you wouldn't accept it. Think what's just happened recently with Jurgen Klopp. But what I will say is that as long as the podcast can still be unfiltered, unedited, can have a voice for any single person, be an RB fan or another fan of another club like yourselves, be able to say anything you want without scrutiny, and can literally say, as long as, it's not, racist or anything like that, which is just obviously no-goes, then I'd be okay for sure. Like, you want me to be a scout in Australia or something? Sure, whatever. But the podcast itself can't be owned by anyone but me. I'm sorry. I've got my values are too hard for that, because otherwise I can't enjoy what I'm doing. I'd just be a corporate spokesperson, and I'm a little bit of an anti-establishment type person myself. So that would never work well.
Fair enough.
Going into the upcoming game, this is the first time that I could find that we've been playing Sturm Graz. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
Archie's my
Or at least in the
statistician.
Champions
He'll
League.
be able to tell us.
Archie.
Didn't quite get that. Sorry.
Yep. So, has we played you guys at all in any competition? I don't believe we've played in the Champions League at the very least.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so this is the first game that we're coming up against, and ironically enough, we've played RB Salzburg plenty of times before. However, we actually haven't played, Sturm Graz, which is really absolute madness when you come to think of it, because besides, when Red Bull, purchased that club and whatnot, I really thought that Sturm Graz was really one of the top tier teams, and I'm not just saying this, in the Austrian Bundesliga. So they were one of the teams that you would look at and go, oh, besides Red Bull's dominance, who was the other teams out there? And for me, it was Sturm Graz.
Yeah, so, agree. And I think, as I said earlier, I think the last season winning the league and cup double, ending Salzburg's reign, and Rapid Vienna, unfortunately not unfortunately at all, fortunately, they've not been able to do anything over the last few years as well. So yes, Sturm Graz are, they are one of the European. They've been playing a lot of European football, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. And if you go back 20 years, we were in the Champions League then, playing like Manchester United. But more recently, it's been the Conference League and Europa League. So yeah.
So how has the UEFA Champions League, from your perspective, the new upcoming layout, gone from you guys? Do you like it?
Good. I think to play, we've played some really, really tough European supergiants, and throughout the whole competition, other than last week losing 5-0 to Atalanta, Sturm haven't been embarrassed. They've been in every game. To only lose 1-0 against Dortmund at Dortmund, and it was a last few minutes winner for Dortmund that took the game, took the 3 points. And I don't, I don't think we've been outplayed in any game other than maybe last week against Atalanta. So I'm hopeful, as I say, I'm hopeful that there'll be a good performance on Wednesday. There'll be an attacking performance on Wednesday, and we'll take the 3 points from you.
Look, I wouldn't put it past it if you took all 3 points, and I, in all honesty, I don't mean this in any way that I'm trying to throw off the game or anything like that. But if we lose, so be it. It doesn't mean anything in a sense of we're not going to be able to go anywhere. But at the end of the day, if we do lose, and this is no disrespect again to Sturm Graz, but I think that the Red Bull team would be technically humiliated, I guess you could say, is because they're supposed to be the top table of the Red Bull franchise teams, and then RB Salzburg locally can't get it done, and then you'd expect, okay, they'll redeem them or something like that. And if they can't even do that, well, then it's going to be a long flight back home to Germany, even though it's not that far. But they're gonna think about it, that's for sure. With the upcoming fixture,
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, last time Sturm played Salzburg, I'm pretty sure we battered them 5-0. So you, as an outsider, you'd be thinking Leipzig will be wanting some revenge to go and hopefully beat them, hopefully beat Graz 5-0. Yeah.
Well, I just don't see that actually coming. I mean, yes, there's definitely a golfing quality of players on the pitch from both sides, but at the end of the day, it's not one on paper, and it's not one with top players on the side from one team, because if they don't all show up, then especially being an away game as well, absolutely anything can happen in world football. And I'd also like to know, in the upcoming fixture against us coming up, what do you want to see from your team's side of view, and what do you expect from us coming into the match?
I think from a Sturm point of view, I think we're strong defensively. We don't leak many goals. Again, I sound quite hypocritical there, going back to last Wednesday's game against Atalanta where we conceded 5. But generally, we don't concede many goals. So it's going to be a tight game for us. And if we can nick a goal, then that's great. From a Leipzig point of view, you've had a bit of disciplinary problems over the last couple of games. There's been a couple of red cards. I'm not sure if that's going to affect team selection. But you've obviously got some good players. There's world-class quality players in your squad and team and at disposal. So it's going to be a tough game, and I expect that Salzburg, Leipzig are going to come out all guns blazing, and they're going to want that. I know we said it's a dead rubber, but it's pride, isn't it? It's
prize money, isn't it?
And prize money as well. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a good tight game, and you've obviously got a lot of players, quality players.
So, what are the score predictions, do you think, for this game? And by all means, if you would like to be biased and say like 5-0 or something, go for it.
Well, firstly, of course, we're going to be biased with Sturm Graz fans. Archie can go first.
I think it'll be a good game. I think, and I'll say a draw, as it's a nothing game for both teams. But then, for both teams to get a point, it would hopefully push them both up the table and in turn more money, more prize money. So I think there'll be some good matchups on the pitch with Baumgartner versus Emmanuel Iwu, and other matchups. So I think it'll be a good game, but I'll say a 1-1 draw.
I'm not going to sit on the fence, and I'm going to say Sturm Graz are going to win 1-0.
Oh, 1-0. Okay, so I'm going to sound really, really bad now from an RB Leipzig perspective, and I do apologise to my special guests, Dan and Archie. Before bringing you on the show, I actually said it was going to be a 3-0 for RB Leipzig. So, but then you've given me some insights that I obviously can't see from the outside looking in when you've said that it's going to be the tight game, as in that you've defended well, and I mean we've been very poor as well. So if I look at it in that perspective, 1-0, 1-1 is really quite possible in this one, especially if we don't bring our A game over there. And yes, we've got a couple of other things that we have to negate as well, like it's not not playing in the correct stadium and other things like that. But you're still going to have a predominantly home crowd regardless, and some of our younger players also, even though they've still played some Champions League football this season, I've noticed they were a little bit struggling depending on what away games and what away grounds they've been at. So I wouldn't turn around and put it past that for Sturm Graz to be able to get those points.
I'm not a betting man, but we'll have some money on it if you want.
No, because I can't condone it on my podcast, as there are children and other things, and other younger people that do listen to the show. But knowing my luck, when I say something, if I were to do something like that, we're definitely going to lose. And I don't want to be the what's the word here? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I don't want to be just go with the reasoning why that every RB Leipzig fan around the world is going to be absolutely spewing at me because I jinxed the team, so to speak. So at least the players can be at fault completely instead of just myself. So I do thank you, lads, for bearing with us. For a lot of people that will end up watching this, we've had some technical difficulties and problems, and the recording has gone way over the time that we've expected, so we'll try to finish it up as quickly as possible. I don't want to take any much more of your time. Please tell the listeners and also the viewers where they can find you and anything you'd like to plug.
Yeah, so we have Archie actually set it up. We've got a X, formerly known as Twitter, account, which is at Sturm in UK. So all one word, Sturm, STURM in UK. And we've also recently set up a Instagram page with the same handle. So come and follow us. We're I think we're getting towards 1,000 followers between both platforms now, which isn't bad for two guys from England. That's all.
And I've got one last question for you, which is the straight tradition question. What's one question you'd wished I'd have asked you, and how would you have answered? And this can go to both of you.
Yeah, well, I thought about this, and with the investment pedigree and history of RB, it would be my question. I wish you'd have asked was, what would I do or how would I invest money in Sturm Graz? Basically, if I won the Euro Millions or the lottery tomorrow and won 170 million, how would I invest that money in the club? That would be my question. My answer to that would be, obviously, we've spoken about the stadium, so I would do all I can to purchase and secure a stadium for the club. That would be priority number one, and then giving a lot back to the fans, like the club already does, to just continuing that. Archie,
What to go off of what you said?
Yeah, what would be your question as well?
Yeah, just buy a stadium and get some good players. Maybe some expired world stars, bring them to Sturm Graz, or just invest in the academy or something like that. Yeah.
Dan, Archie, thank you so much for bearing with the technical difficulties that we've had this evening on this podcast recording episode. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both on the show.
Thank you, mate. Likewise.
If you would like to see more of Sturm in the UK, please make sure to check out their social media pages. I'll link them in the show notes of the podcast episode and all in the YouTube video as well. So if you like this video, please make sure that you like the video and subscribe, and make sure that you share it around, and also give some love to both Dan and Archie. Until next time, I've been Justin Crozer. Bye-bye for now.